Welcome to another tutorial on patching with Reaktor blocks. In this video, we're going to create a vibrato patch, but the vibrato is going to be a faded in vibrato. So every time you press a note, the vibrato kicks in a bit later. So let's see how to set up something like that. We're going to start from scratch, so I'll go ahead and click File, New Ensemble. Let's close out the panel view for now, as we're going to be patching mainly. So I'll delete these inputs as we won't be needing them. Now from the library, let's bring in some of the modules. Starting from the bento box, let's add in our main oscillator. Next, we will need a VCA. We will need an ADSR envelope. We will need an LFO that will create the vibrato. We will need another VCA, but this is not going to be for the amp, but to control the modulation. Alright, lastly, from the utilities, we'll also bring in a note in input so we can play this patch. Alright, so now let's start patching. So from the utility note in input, let's take the pitch output and plug it to the pitch on the oscillator. Let's take the sawtooth output and plug it into the VCA input. And then the output can go to the main output on Reaktor. Alright, so that's our main audio connection. We are forgetting one thing, which is the gate. So we can use the gate to open and close the amp volume. So now if you go to the panel, we can kind of arrange things here a little bit. Let's bring the VCA to the right. Now, if you don't like this blank panel over here, you can hide it. If you just click over here in the background somewhere, if you click over here under Properties, under View, we can turn off this visible. So now you don't see that at all. Alright, so let's organize this a bit better. I'll move the LFO down here. Now one of these VCAs is going to be controlling the LFO, so we'll keep that down there as well, maybe to the right of the LFO. The oscillator can go to the left over here. The ADSR is actually being used with the LFO, so let's bring it in here. Alright, so that's our layout. Now on our main amp VCA, let's go ahead and click over here and increase the modulation depth over here. So now that gate signal coming in from the note in will open up the sound. And at the same time, it's also controlling the pitch on the oscillator. So right now we have this basic sawtooth patch. Let's now set up the vibrato. So normally for vibrato, you will take the LFO output and plug it into either FM or the mod A and then set up the modulation on the panel. Let's try with FM first. So go on the panel, increase this FM amount. Let's set up the LFO rate. Usually for vibrato, somewhere around 6 or 7 would be ideal. The depth usually should be a lot less, so we can reduce the depth here. So quite a lot. You can also play around with the FM modes. We have exponential, linear, as well as linear through 0. Let's try linear. So pretty excessive. I'll go back to the exponential mode. Alright, so now this vibrato is there for every note, and as soon as we play the note, we can hear the vibrato. But we want the vibrato to kick in gradually. So I'm going to disconnect this connection here. And let's take the LFO output and plug it into this VCA. Now since we have two VCAs, it's probably best to rename them. So we can double click here and we can rename this to the LFO VCA. And this VCA can be the amp VCA. Alright, so now this ADSR needs to be triggered with the gate input coming in from the note in. So let's plug that in. And now this output here can go into the mod A on this VCA. And finally, this output, which is going to be the LFO signal, can go into FM. Let's actually try mod A this time. Now on the panel, on the oscillator's mod A, click over here. Pitch modulation is this slider here. So let's click and drag to set a range. Now you don't see any pitch modulation, but if I play a note, actually we still don't see it because this amp is completely down, so it's basically muting the modulation. So let's click over here and click and drag here to increase the modulation depth. So now when I play a note, the gate signal will go ahead and open this VCA and let the LFO modulation through, and we should start to see and hear the modulation on the pitch here. There you go. Now this VCA has an envelope controlling this. So we can give it some attack. Let's increase that depth so we really hear this effect. So as soon as I play a note, you can hear how the modulation gradually kicks in. We can also increase the attack even more. So I think somewhere around that 1 second mark seems to be ideal. So that's the patch. Let's go ahead and save this. File, save ensemble. I'll put my initials and call this fade in vibrato. Hope that was helpful. Stay tuned for a lot more Reaktor Blocks patching.